Welcome to the Messenger-Inquirer Gridiron Report, sponsored by Crandall's Home Furnishing and Carpets Unlimited. I'm Messenger-Inquirer Sports Editor Scott Hagerman, and with me is Messenger-Inquirer Sports Writer Jim Pickens. And Jim, we're 3 or 4 weeks coming up into the season, depending on what team we're talking about. Are we far enough into the high school season that you feel like we're starting to get a feel for the teams and what they can do this year?
Yeah, I think we are. I think we're right at that moment. I think that the first week or two, you see a team and you want to kind of jump on the bandwagon a little bit, but sometimes they play a tougher opponent in week 3. I think 3 or 4 weeks into it, once you've played 3 games, I think that you, as a coach and your fans and everybody, I think they get a feel for kind of what you've got and your strengths and your weaknesses. 3 games gives you an idea of where you need to go the rest of the season.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be some interesting matchups that we have coming up this week. We're not quite what you would say into district play yet, so these are kind of games that have kind of become rivalries, but then they don't have the feel of district games. It's just kind of an interesting week this week.
Right.
And highlighting the week, without a doubt, is the city-county game between Daviess County and Owensboro. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but before that, let's hear an interview you did with Marcus Kimbrell yesterday.
Talk about, you made a pretty significant change. Anytime a quarterback is changed during the season, that's significant. Daviess Critt, he's a sophomore. I know he's very young, but he's also very smooth, and he played with a lot of confidence. Just talk about what you felt like he brought to the table coming into the game, and then just talk a little bit about his performance, which was outstanding.
Well, Daviess is a real confident type kid. That's just his attitude. He believes that he can be successful, and he's just high energy all the time, and wants to do whatever he can to help our team be successful. And he stepped in there. We looked at some situations that were going on at that position, and we needed to make a change and see if someone else could have the opportunity to step up and make the plays that we needed to happen there. And Daviess stepped in there Friday night, and we were always a little nervous about a kid, especially a sophomore, starting his first game varsity-wise. And I thought, for the most part, he did a good job. There were some times that he made a few mistakes, but he made up for a lot of things with his ability to be a playmaker, and that's something I really like about him. You
had mentioned to me you had noticed this actually in practice as far as kind of putting that in the back of your head about him. Talk about what were you seeing in practice that sort of caught your attention?
Well, Daviess has been splitting reps at our receiver position and quarterback throughout the summer. He actually broke a knuckle in a 7-on-7 tournament in Evansville and was out for several weeks. And so prior to that, at receiver, he looked really good, and occasionally at quarterback, making some mistakes in that position that early in the summer that we didn't really help him to gain that position. So we felt like he would be able to help us somewhere, a defense or on defense somewhere, or at a receiver position early in the summer. And then when he did come back, he'd been practicing. He was released before that first game, and so he was able to start getting back into it. And we were getting a few reps here and there with him at quarterback, and we noticed, that he was able to, when we get pressure on him with our defense in practice, he was able to escape, either running or moving and making a play, throwing the ball, and that's what we look for at that position. And we felt like once we went through the Bowling Green game, back up to our prior two scrimmages, and through the Bowling Green game, that position was going to have to be. We were going to have to look at it, and Daviess was able to step in there and in that first game and do what we'd seen in practice.
Talk about this week, kind of a horse of a different color coming up from the Panthers, and that's Owensboro Red Devils. Just talk about what you expect to see from them, and how. What are a couple of keys for your ball club to be competitive in this game?
Well, Owensboro obviously is, I don't know, they're ranked 5th or 6th in 5A, I think, and they've got a really solid program. One of the things that stands out in my mind about them early in the season is that when they play their bowl game against Wrights, they're down, I think, 21-0 at halftime. And the way they responded, when they came out the second half, they played football the way it's supposed to be played. They got after it and played fast, and so that stands out. That tells what kind of team you've got, I think. And so then going into their next game, they played Owensboro Catholic, and I think they came out the gate playing fast and hard, and I felt like that was something that was going to, personally, just from watching them, that was going to help them to be a solid team, to be able to play fast right away and smart, and they've done that. So their ability to come out and play hard from the very beginning, like they did last week, and just the ability for Cal Prince is definitely a solid quarterback. He is a threat throwing the ball, but all teams that face him, I think, are going to have to really focus on being able to stop him in his run game, and it's tough. They run a lot of read stuff where he keeps it and runs, and he can take off in his when he's setting up for pass, and it's tough. It's tough on a defense when you have a kid at quarterback that can throw it a little and run. It makes it really tough to defend. So that's kind of answering two questions. I think that's one of the huge keys for us, is to somehow contain Cal Prince. And for us offensively, we've got to be able to continue on with some of the things we did last week, and being able to maintain, keep the ball, maintain drives, move the chains, and get some points on the board. Defensively, like I said, stopping Cal Prince. Special teams wise, we had tons of mistakes against Bowling Green in that area. We did better against Ohio County, but we still struggle in some areas where I'm real concerned with our kickoff team and things, and punt coverage. So those things will get us beat if we don't improve there, and that's got to happen this week for sure.
Well, thank you, Coach. We appreciate you talking with us.
Okay, thanks.
Coach, who feels like his team has every chance coming into this game. What's the one key? Give me the one key you think in this game.
Daviess County has to move the chains. They have to. Ball control is very important here, and it's important because of field position, Scott. They have to move the chains and keep their defense in a good position. I know last year Daviess County, that was the problem they had. They were giving up the ball in bad position, and Owensboro was just marching right in. Daviess County has to move the ball down the field, punt them into trouble, and make Owensboro have long drives to stay in this game.
Well, it'll certainly be an interesting test for DC.
Absolutely.
You never know what can happen. That's the beauty of high school football.
Absolutely.
The other game we're going to talk about here real quick, Owensboro Catholic going over to South Spencer. Both of them come in with 2-1 records. Catholic coming off the loss to Owensboro last week. South Spencer just barely got by a Tell City team that had been struggling. How do you see this matchup shaking up?
Well, I think that Catholic will be out to redeem themselves. They got beat bad by South Spencer last year at Steel Stadium, and they're on the road in Rio this week. But I think Catholic will have incentive working on their part in two ways. Last year's bad defeat, and also coming off their disappointing loss to Owensboro. I know that everyone in the Catholic camp thought that game would be more competitive, and I think that Catholic therefore will come back very focused for this ball game.
South Spencer has a new head coach this year, and they're coming off a game where I thought South Spencer was maybe better than they are, having struggled at Tell City. But this has really turned into one of those rivalry games where it's never easy either way.
No, it really isn't. I mean, this is a good game, and they love playing each other, and it's always a fun matchup. There's just something about the way the styles of play match up for a really good game, and I expect a good game.
I do too. I think this one will be pretty close. We're going to take a break, hear from our sponsor, and we'll be back with a look at 4 more games coming up this weekend.